What's up, guitar players and tone enthusiasts? It's John coming back at you with another digital guitar patch guru video. I realize of late most of my videos have actually been about guitar modifications, so moving in a slightly different direction and with a slightly different style. You may not even recognize me. I got my hair tied back because I'm going to do another modification, and I'm going to show you how I do it this time. I've changed out a lot of pickups, made a lot of modifications to basic setups on guitar, and for better or worse, Daryl Braun of Daryl Braun Guitars inspired me to buy yet another inexpensive guitar off a discount app, and I did. And this is what it looks like. It's unbranded. It's gorgeous. When it showed up, it had garbage tuners, as all inexpensive guitars are going to have, and I've never seen or heard worse guitar pickups than the ones that came preloaded in this guitar. But I'm going to swap them out again with another preloaded pickguard, which I bought. Now, I got this off of Wish for $49. $49 for a guitar that, despite having bad pickups and crappy tuners, plays really well when you set it up properly. For the $49 that I paid, I probably ended up paying $60 all said and done with shipping. And I got some, I think they were $50 hip shot locking tuners. I went ahead and changed those out. It's really not difficult. It's an essential upgrade to these inexpensive guitars. The tuners are one of the worst areas that you can run into in an inexpensive guitar. Guitar won't hold tune, you can't play it properly. So you have to make that modification. We're gonna swap out the pickups, and I'm gonna show you guys how we do that. Follow along. So before I do any swapping of the pickups, I need to do a comparison of what they sound like. So I will do it before with the pickups that came preloaded in the guitar so that you can see how loud the pickups are and how much noise the pickups make in comparison to how loud the pickups actually are. And then once I install the new pickups, I'll show you the difference, how loud they are compared to how much noise they pick up. So to do this, you're going to need a screwdriver. That is a screwdriver that I bought online with multiple heads that you can change out. And that is a string gauge here on the left in here that will help me with the adjustment of the string height and the pickups later on so that everything can be consistent. I'm not sure whether we're going to need them, but these are pliers and wire clippers. Some people clip the old wiring out. I'm going to clip some of it, but for the most part I'm going to be stripping the wire that's already in the guitar with the soldering iron. You're going to need a soldering iron and solder in order to complete this. This is a soldering iron with a gauge that can change the heat so that you can get various temperatures to melt the solder and to connect and disconnect the wiring. You're going to either need a regular number 2 sharpened pencil or a mechanical pencil like this, and I'll explain why later. So as you can see, the guitar came preloaded with this really pretty tortoiseshell pickguard with the white on red. I really like that look. So I decided to keep it consistent, and I ordered a preloaded pickguard that also in tortoiseshell. So this is the new tortoiseshell pickguard that's going to be inside. It's an HSS configuration again, so you have a humbucker and 2 single coils, so I can get that really meaty sound on the bridge. And I'll show you guys what's awesome is when you buy it, you buy these preloaded pickguards, they come pre-wired, so you don't have to do any of the wiring, although I am going to slightly modify the wiring, and I'll show you how I do that. Stock configuration of pickups typically is that this bottom pickup, the bridge one, the tone control doesn't work on it. So I'm going to show you guys how you can modify that as well. So if you take a look right now, my audio interface, it's not even recording. See those green peaks that are happening in there in the corner? That's the amount of noise that just comes through the pickup when nothing is going through it. That's just crackle and noise. That's the amount of sound that's coming through the pickups that's just noise. Alright, so the first step obviously is to take these strings off of the guitar. I'm going to try to use these again so that everything is perfectly consistent, but if I can't, I'll just replace them. Alright guys, so as you see, I took the old strings off the guitar. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is you have to remove all the screws from the pickguard that are actually holding the pickguard to the body cavity. And that's like right here, and here, and here, and here, and here. You don't have to mess with these because those are actually to raise and lower the height of your pickups right here. So you don't need to mess with those screws. You just need to get the remaining screws around the perimeter here. So I have removed all the screws that would hold the pickguard in place. Now I should be able to just lift this off. Alright, so as you can see, I have taken the pickguard out of the case. All you had to do is remove the screws. Now, you can cut these wires that are holding the pickguard into the guitar cavity, or you can take them off with the soldering iron. For the time being, I'm actually going to cut them with wire clippers. Alright, so as you can see, to be expected with an unbranded guitar, these are unbranded pickups. No indication as to what kind of magnets are in there or anything. Everything's color coded, which is pretty helpful. So next thing that you're going to want to do is actually remove the input jack. So you just take the screws off from here. It's never a bad idea to keep it wired as a reference so that you know exactly how they wired it up. Point being, always take pictures to document your work just in case you do something and then you're confused and you don't know which wires go where. From looking at this diagram, we got yellow and red connected to the jack here. We've got it connected to the volume pod over here. Alright, so I've completely snipped it out of the guitar case. I'm holding the old pick guard in my hand right here. And as you can see inside the cavity, this goes into the back, into the spring cavity that holds the tremolo arm. It keeps that amount of tension there. And then these are the cables that go to the jack. I kept those in place so that I know where to connect things. So the next thing I recommend is actually cleaning up the station here, getting rid of all of these wood chips. And for that, I'm just going to use a basic cloth, and I would recommend some sort of guitar polish, wood cleaner, such and such, but this actually works great. It's Goo Gone. So if there's anything sticky, it'll get rid of it. It's basically just orange oil. And it works good for multiple surfaces, cleans great, and ends up smelling great when you're done. Alright, so as you can see, I've cleaned the inside of this cavity about as much as I can. There's no aluminum inside. I normally put aluminum inside to help the pickups from not make extra noise when they're inside the body cavity. So I think I figured out why the guitar makes so much noise when it's simply plugged in. Right, now as you can see on this preloaded pickguard that they sent me, they've got two of the cables kind of wrapped together and isolated on one side and one out there. That red cable that's going down is going to be the one that you solder to the back of the guitar plate to ground it. And the red and white cables are basically going to replace the red and yellow cables that were connected to the cheaper pickguard. So then I had to get into the back cavity of the guitar where you've got the springs for the tremolo arm, and as you can see, there's the red wire that is connected right here. It is soldered to this metal plate in order to ground it. So I snipped this red wire from the guitar, but I'm going to use it to make the modification to the wiring that I want so that I can get tone control in that bridge pickup. So I'm going to keep this wire. So I forgot to mention this, but when you get to the part where you're actually soldering, you need a damp sponge. The soldering iron that I have came with this tiny little sponge. I don't know who they're thinking can use just that and be sufficient, so I've got a second one here. What I did is I basically just soaked it and then wrung it out a little bit. It's still a little bit damp. If I was to squeeze it right now, it would make a little puddle. So this may seem like a no-brainer, but if you're going to make any modifications to the wiring of the pickguard, you should do that before you install it. So we're going to change the wiring ever so slightly so that we're able to control this bridge pickup pot here. We are going to take this yellow cable that's connected to this pot right here. It's in position 2 if you're counting from the bottom up. We're going to move it from position 2 into this onto 3. We're going to leave this red one where it is, and we're going to add a little jumper cable between the two. One ends up being the tone control for both this pickup and this pickup as opposed to them being independent of each other. This one will have its own isolated. And again, as I said, these two here will be controlled by this pot right here. We have a warm soldering iron, and the easiest way to get a disconnect from one to the next is to actually just heat it until the original solder melts and then pull it away. And there you have it. As you guys can see, I've moved that yellow wire over so that I can actually solder it on now. Get your soldering iron as warm as you possibly can get it. And you want to tin it, which means you want to actually put solder on the tip of it. So, as you can see, you start to melt a little bit of solder onto the tip of it and get it prepared. Then you simply touch it to the surface, like so, and wait for it to melt and make a glob. You don't want a ton, you just want enough that it makes contact. Tinning, and there you go. And to test it, we pull it slightly when it is dry, and that appears to be solid. If you guys remember this red wire that I cut from the trim block that is dangling in the frame here, I'm going to trim it so that it's short enough to make a contact between here, and then solder those 2 points together. That is the length of the wire now. You want to twist the copper wire like that on both ends. Again, I'm going to tin some solder onto the soldering iron so that I can make a little kind of puddle of it right here. And get to focus, you can see right there I've got a jumper connected. So the next step you're going to have to do is you need to thread these cables through the body cavity of the guitar down to the input jack. And you need to thread this cable into the tremolo block and solder it in. But we're going to do that last because we want to make sure that we get this inside the body with a nice snug fit. If you can look carefully, it's right here. You're going to thread the red and white cable through there so that it will come up through here and you can connect it to the input jack. You can see this is not quite secure yet. It's still loose. I want to get it positioned properly. And we've got the 2 wires threaded through here so that we can connect them to the input jack. And as you can see, you've got a red and a yellow, and my pickup is red and white. Thankfully, the diagram that I'm going to include will show you that the red cable is grounded to the input jack here as it's attached to the metal in the base, and the yellow is called the hot wire, and that is actually going to be attached to one of the pots. Yellow out, red out. Alright guys, we're getting near the end. There you have it. It is soldered to the input jack. And as you can see, I went ahead and removed the strings because I just got tired of them getting snagged on everything. Just cut the strings off and replace them. Alright, we've soldered the cable back here to the tremolo arm. The next step we're going to do is to check and make sure the pickups are working before we put the strings on it. Alright, now to test that these pickups are working, all you have to do is plug the guitar in and then touch the little metal pieces of the pickups with something else that's metal, and if you're here, that one's on and working, and that one is working, and this one is working. Let's see if that tone control worked. It's very bright. Let's turn the tone down, and it's dull. You may actually even hear the crackle. Okay, so that worked. So before putting new strings on this guitar, you want to lubricate the friction points of the nut. And you can do that with a graphite from pencil lead. So you simply just rub a little bit of graphite inside the nut slots, like so. And this will keep the strings from snagging in these spots, and it'll help your tuning stability. Pickups work. Got the guitar restrung. When you are checking the tuning of your guitar, the open string should be the same pitch as this 12th note here. You check it with a tuner, and if the string is sharp, then you have to take a screwdriver and you want to move this back. The rule is if you're looking at the needle, whatever direction the needle goes when you check it, that's the direction you move the saddle. So, flat, this way. Sharp, this way. You do that, adjusting these guys here, and when you do that, and this note is the same pitch as the open string, your guitar is properly intonated, and that is the most important part of a guitar setup, is making sure that all the notes play in tune with one another. And there you have it. To the follow-up. Check it out, these are the new pickups installed inside, and still just as much noise coming through without any sound being played. So, either I put in crap pickups to replace the crap ones that were already in there, I raised the pickups too high to the string so they're getting more noise than usual, or changing the pickups really just doesn't make that much difference.